Hi guys, welcome back to My Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. I am very proud and honored today to interview Stefan Neff. No, I haven't lost my marbles. Nope, I actually have got on the other line here, Stefan Neff. Friend of mine tried to look me up and said, "Did you know there's another dude out there who is talking alcohol?" I said, "What?" And yeah, and it turns out, indeed, there are two Stefan Neffs. We are both, what shall I call us? Brothers, brothers in arms, I guess is the right word, because we both have a passion that comes from having lived a life that maybe was not so great. And nowadays we both are fighting the same battles in the sense of we are there for others. We are trying to change lives. And it's an absolute honor for me to have you, Stefan, on my show. Stefan Neff, all the way from Canada.
Awesome. Sobriety Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Brothers in arms in the best possible way, isn't it?
Oh, it was nice to see you. Nice to see you again. Yeah, another brother from a different mother.
Exactly. But isn't it intriguing that here we are, the only thing that we have got in common happens to be our skin color. And apart from that, you are just your background is different, completely different than mine, your upbringing, all the kind of things. There's nothing much the same, yet here we are. It just shows how alcohol is transcending all kind of barriers, all kind of countries, all kind of, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Alcohol is a poison that dissolves perfectly relationships, bank accounts, and lives. Man. So, Stefan, thank you so much. And I have got a bit of a head start here because I've read Stefan's book. We are both authors, and Stefan has equally put his experiences in writing. And it is actually a very, very good book to read. So, guys, go out there, buy a copy, and see how his life panned out. But in a nutshell, how was your love affair with alcohol? When did it start?
Well, thanks for asking. Great question. It goes back from when I was 3 years old. Yes, 3 years old. But sometimes my parents made dandelion wine or homemade grape wine, and special occasions, I would take it off the table. My mom would pour herself a glass, and I would be taking it off the table. And it's funny to say, my dad never drank alcohol, but it was my mom. So one day I drank too much. And the feeling I got, even at 3 years old, I ended up passing out in the old wood box near the fireplace. And my parents found me, tucked away in a little ball in the fetal position, actually drunk. So that was my first experience of alcohol. And from that point on, it wasn't a chronic thing from that early age. I would say it really started when I was about 12 or 13 years old. Really started to really be chronic.
Was there anything that triggered you then? Or was it part of growing up and trying to be a man and trying to leave your mark and being the man? I mean, we both are about the same age. Certainly in the 70s, 80s, drinking was normal. And it was all a part and parcel. You grew up with alcohol. Was that the same with you?
Well, with me, I loved the taste of this tangy taste. And my mom always said to me, you can't drink pop, and only in special occasions. So something fizzy or something had a different taste to it than just water or milk, because we lived on a dairy farm. So we drank a lot of milk. And so so when my mom always said, no, you can't, I always leaned towards what I could not have.
Well,
So that's
that's fate, isn't it? We all are the same thing, even as grown-ups. No, you're not allowed. Do not think about chuckling chainsaws. I really wonder how it would be to chuckle chainsaws. That's us. We are stupid human beings.
yeah.
But
So yeah. So that's when it started. Yeah.
out of interest, though,
Yes.
at 12 years of age, you have trouble walking in and off license and getting the alcohol. How did you procure your goodies?
Well, I had an older brother. Yeah, and he was 5 years older,
Mm,
and he also had a very heavy drinking, even at a very young age.
mm,
So he was able to get it from his older friends,
mm,
and then I would nip it from him, neighbors too as well. Like I said, my parents, my dad loved making the wine, but he didn't drink it, so he made dandelion wine, and so it was in the cellar. The neighbors had their own wine in the cellar, so I would sneak over to the neighbors, and they had the siphoning things, and I would fill up a bottle, and then that would be my weekend, 2 bottles of wine for the weekend,
mm.
Friday night and a Saturday. So
Oh, goodness, goodness, goodness. A fair call. And initially, our bodies can sort of roll with the punches. It's okay. There's not too much harm done. Yes, you get a bit of hangover, and you get on with your day. Uh, did it change at some stage, or how was the feeling the next day for you?
oh yeah, I wasn't. I would have a headache. My mom would dump water on my head. It's time to go. Weed the garden, and I would be sleeping away, and she didn't know why, of course. Because I hit it quite well. Um, so yeah, that's when the hangover started. I didn't drink every day, so it was like a weekend thing. That's when it started. Um, we can go into when it's later in life after the progressed, I guess you would say,
Mm,
in my late teens or early 20s. But from alcohol came marijuana. So marijuana started about a year later. So at 13 years old, I started smoking marijuana.
mm,
So I had two addictives, addictions,
mm.
and then cigarettes. So I had cigarette smoking at the same time, marijuana and alcohol. So all three of them were on my list of number one values.
Number one values. You put it so nicely, isn't it? Because really, you think of nothing else, isn't it? It becomes sort of an all-encompassing kind of thing. There's always either you think about it, or you try to hide that you're doing it, or you hide the consequences. So yeah, sometimes you think when you think back, it's sort of 80% of your day seems to be sort of somehow linked to the alcohol in one way or the other, or to drugs. And it's just, yeah, how bizarre how our brain hates punishment and pain and yearns for that dopamine response, for this, oh yes, uh, the release, the
Yep.
relief. Did you change? Were you a happy drunk?
Yeah. You know what? I was actually. Actually, I was. Maybe not when I was on the harder drugs, because
Mhm.
it wasn't those three that I was doing. I experimented in different other drugs. But yes, I wasn't a mean person. Um, I was very blessed in the fact that I was watching my older brother being mean. He was very mean because he used to, drink and then beat us up and then use us as punching bags. So I watched him be quite belligerent towards people. So
Mm.
for whatever reason, I wasn't like that. So I was, of course, blessed that I wasn't like that, but I still had the drinking issue.
Mm. How long were you in the throes of addiction? I mean, you started very young. You started 12, 13 to really play seriously with it. And then it became your false friend for how long?
Well, really started like at the age of when I got out of high school, 19.
Mm,
I started to drink every day. So every day until I was 45. 46 years old, actually, 46 years old. Then, so you're looking at 26 years, if I'm correct. My math.
And you're not the first one. You won't be the only one. That is often something that happens, and especially the younger you start, the more we know that there is a risk that you indeed get very much addicted to those things. So there are actually nowadays some health experts who recommend that the drinking age should be increased to 25. Because there seems to be sort of a magical cutoff there. If you start drinking seriously less than 25, the younger you are, the more likely you become addicted. Whilst if you start seriously drinking after 25, it's actually not such a huge issue. So it's intriguing how the young mind and the young brain is so susceptible to it, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. So a lot of times I was drinking to hide my pains. That was most of my, not in the beginning, because the beginning was for pleasure. And that was my pleasure brain. But later in life, I didn't get pleasure from it, from the alcohol. I used it to mask a lot of my, past pains and, present pains and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, at a very young age, that was at 19, I had internal pain. So yeah. Mask. It's like putting a mask on, but the mask never worked.
But it gives us this feeling that somehow we are in control. That's the bizarre thing. If you look at alcohol in its own right, 95% of those who are drinking dangerously would swear hand on heart they have no problem with it. So it's this kind of denial that goes along with our alcohol, where we try to live our lives in such a way that it all makes sense to us. Oh, of course I'm drinking, but because I'm so much in stress. Look what they do to me. Therefore, I've deserved to drink tonight. I'm not in pain, but look today, Rachmaninoff's birthday. So we need to celebrate Rachmaninoff. I've never listened to him. I don't care. We celebrate. Today is just a nice relaxed day. Oh, that's fine. Let's relax with a glass of wine before breakfast. Hang on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
okay. You get the idea. We are
absolutely.
So I'm pleased that yeah. I mean, like you, pain was the driver for me towards the later years, but it was also it was an intriguing one because I never learned to deal with my emotions. I never ever had the emotional maturity that I have got now, that I've learned in my rehab, and that I've cultivated in the last 7 years. Prior to that, God, it was there was so much going on in my heart and in my brain that was not nice. And of course, lots of shit happens to you in your life. Many of the things not so nice, as I said, and PTSD, depression, anxiety. They unfortunately they can become pretty good friends to you. Same with you.
Yep, absolutely. So mine was, for example, exactly very similar to yours was the internal pains. I had a fairly good childhood, if you would say. I lived on a dairy farm and I had chickens and dogs and pets and everything else. But as you said, my father said to me, and he showed that he never showed any emotion. He never shared any of his caring ways. It was always, why are you doing this? And why can't you do the right thing? Or why are you making so many mistakes? So many different things. So throughout my whole life, it was like I never really knew how to show. And I didn't want to show my emotions. And it took me years and years and years up until the last 5 years, since I was, 45 years old, before I started to release my addictive behaviors, as I really started to share. And then all of a sudden, I could start to share my feelings more.
And then deal with them.
Yeah. and the weight, the weight off my shoulders, it's like I was carrying a 1,000-pound rock on top of my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I started chipping away on it. It means chipping away means sharing my emotions and sharing my feelings. And all of a sudden, I ended up with a little bit of dust on there. There's still dust there, and there's still sometimes rocks there, but you still have to, once you start sharing, all of a sudden your mind, your body, just this euphoric feeling comes over you when you start to release your feelings and start sharing with people.
Isn't it? Because we are hiding. As alcoholics, we are hiding. We spend a life of hiding away. You said it a few times in little side sentences. You hit it all so well, was your literal words. And that's exactly the life of an alcoholic. And for me, it was weird when I was in rehab, and the first few times that I spelled the words out, hello, I'm Stefan, I'm an alcoholic. That was weird. There was a huge roller coaster of emotions attached to that, from initially guilt and shame and think, oh my God, what will people think of me? To suddenly everyone else saying, yeah, hi, I'm Tom, I'm an alcoholic. And yes, I've been shooting up crack and did whatever. And you think, oh, okay, I'm not alone. And suddenly that was such a revelation, to actually being able to speak out and have no repercussions of it. On the contrary, you get a pat on the back for speaking out. And that was so beautiful. That was such a relief to be finally able to confront what I was hiding. Because ultimately, we are all not stupid. Of course, you know deep inside that maybe your 2 bottles of vodka over the weekend are not normal. And however many friends you build around yourself who are all drinking more than you, so it doesn't look too bad, yes, still something tells you that maybe, yes, so there you go, freedom.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy because, I mean, both our timelines are actually not so dissimilar. Although I did start much later than you, they're certainly not age-free. But there's still, the end result was very similar. And also the time frame that sort of around about 7 years ago for me and 5-6 years ago for you, something happened. What happened? What happened in your case?
Oh, well, it was about 7 years ago. I said to my wife, okay, I'll stop drinking. I'll stop drinking. And she gave me an ultimatum, and it lasted for 3 months. And then I relapsed. And it's so funny because I told her, I'll drink non-alcoholic beer. And so I went and bought the non-alcoholic beer. Then I started to replace it. I went and bought real beer and then replaced it with So then in the fridge, I matched it exact, but then it really started to come into fruition. About 5 years ago, she shared with me. She said, Stefan, you can lie to me. You can lie to your family. And you can lie to all your friends, but you cannot lie to yourself, to God, universe, whatever you believe in. So now it's your choice. And she said to me, I'm going to be happy no matter what, if you're in my life or not. Make your choice. If you want to drink, don't come home. 24 hours later, I completely stopped drinking, smoking. Everything was released out of my life. And it was like this epiphany. No more codependency. She didn't need me anymore. She didn't need me to chase her anymore because I needed somebody to chase me. I needed love. So when I started to share, I found all these different things, why I was drinking, and all these things came out. But that was the moment in my life to transform my life. It even now gives me emotional feelings because it was very strong. And I'm so grateful for her for even having the courage. Yes, the courage to tell me the truth.
Did she tell you the truth before?
No, because she needed me. She needed me. Yeah, she needed me to be that way. and to be the person that hunted that person. So that's why the codependency. So she didn't need, that need wasn't there anymore. She was okay with herself now.
Wow. The power of self-love, isn't it? That's what we preach nowadays, that you get to know yourself, warts and all, the negative feelings, the positive feelings, everything, because that's what you are. You are full of scars. You have done horrible things, at least what your brain tells you. And some of us have done horrible things. And it is who you are, but it doesn't define you. That was the past. And yeah, you can either use it like a life sentence, or you can use it as a lesson. And I guess that's what you did. You turned your life around there. Now, I had the benefit of rehab. I had a similar kind of thing. My wife said, look, behind your back, I have enrolled you in a rehab. You have no chance. You will go to rehab. And that was on I think Tuesday or Wednesday morning, and Friday I was in my first day in rehab. And I had the good sense to actually listen to her and admit that I was powerless over my problem and that I needed help. And so I ended up in rehab, and that was huge because they put me into a kind of safe bubble in which I could first fall apart and then start rebuilding myself. And that was huge. I don't think I would have had the power or the ability or the humility to let that happen had I not been in rehab in a inpatient environment. You didn't go that way. How was your way?
Well, when I was drinking, I was doing personal growth. So I was working on my mindset and I was working on my subconscious mind. So for about 2 or 3 years, we were discussing this, and then I met a mentor that really started to share with me what I was creating in my own life. So, and then I was, listening to, audiobooks and really getting into the personal growth, but I was still drinking at the time. And I had reduced it, but still was drinking every day and still hiding it. So still had an addictive behavior that was beyond imagination of really what sobriety really is. Because sobriety for me is 100% abstinence. So yeah, so I did have a piece of that. So it was a slow growth of really commitment towards changing the way I thought. So that was a trigger point, I would say, a real major trigger point. But what I really knew and into my heart was commitment. I was committed to myself now. And that's what triggered it off for me, that I was going to do it for myself, nobody else.
You were sick and tired of being sick and tired. That was the moment which really, really brought it home. And we need that catalyst. We need that catalyst. We need that point. For some of us, it comes earlier, and the revelation comes when we are not rock bottom. And those people I do envy, because it took rock bottom for me to have my eyes opened. And then I suddenly found myself on a journey that is just putting the biggest grin on my face, because it is such a beautiful journey. It is such a beautiful path that I now have chosen to follow. And it is beautiful. And it's to look you in your eyes and see the smile on your face when you talk about your recovery. It's exactly that. It is. We look like two Cheshire cats here, and just licking the milk. And it is what it is. It's beautiful.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Your mentor dragged you along there to a meeting. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was actually it was at my mentor's 3-day event that I met somebody that brought me to an event that I was like, it was talking about, it was called Smart Recovery. So it was all about cognitive behavior therapy and rational emotive behavior therapy. And it was called Smart Recovery. So, and we started talking. I was talking to you, Stefan. It was like I was talking to my brother on the same path. So the next day, I went to this meeting, and it was a 3-day event that we went to, and then we went, and I really started to shift. I'm like, this is really something that I could really use the tools to help me with maybe some of those still urges that still lingered around my addictive behaviors. And I didn't think I had, but yes, I did. I still had them. So yeah, I went and I started learning all these tools that really started shifting my mind. And I was like, oh, wow, how can I become a facilitator like the facilitator that I went to? And he says, well, you go online and you take this 36-hour training course, and you can become a facilitator for this nonprofit organization called Smart Recovery. And Stefan, I leaned into it and said, yes, I'm going to do this. So I become a facilitator for Smart Recovery. Cool. And much, much, much more. So I've actually I've gone beyond what this and that was in 2018.
Yeah. And it is so bizarre, because it is only when we sort of start helping others that you suddenly reevaluate certain things of yourself. You think you've done it all. I mean, I did the 12-step program, and I thought, yeah, all done, dusted, ticked. And then last year I started writing my book, writing my journey. And so I went again through the 12 steps, inevitably, because everything you write is essentially, especially then if I wrote a book about the 12 steps, inevitably you go through it. And blimey, there were a few things that were still festering. Yeah, would you believe it? As if I would be a human being. Huh? So it keeps going. And then finally I've written the book, and I thought, great, and now I've gone again through 12 steps. And guess what? And something new creeps up. And it's the same when you start helping others. Their journey suddenly triggers something. You listening to them can sometimes trigger the wrong things. There were times when I went to a meeting, and the only thing I could think about, crying out loud, the only thing I want now is a drink, because it was so frustrating and was so and the frustration was typically because these were people that never moved beyond step 1, 2, 3. Well, actually beyond 1, shall I say, because they were basically the white knuckling kind of guys who go to every single meeting because they know if they don't go, they fall apart and drink again. Yet they have not dealt with the resentment, they have not dealt with the fear, etc. So these can be hard times. Now, what I find interesting compared with a 12-step meeting is your different focus. Because from the word go, you focus on tools to recover. You focus on the future, whilst no doubt that is also happening in AA or other 12-step like programs. But you guys, that's really your hallmark, isn't it, in Smart Recovery?
Well, yes, because Smart Recovery is all based on we can change our thoughts, our feelings, and inevitably we can change the way we behave when it comes to our unwanted addictive behaviors. So, like for example, Smart Recovery started 25 years ago, and throughout the many years of their creation, they created a handbook and that's what Smart Recovery is all about, is self-management and recovery training. That's why it's self. So they learn the tools, then they can use the tools when they do have a craving, when they have a negative thought. And as a facilitator myself, I train the people, the individuals that have addictive behaviors, on how to deal with their emotions, their cravings, their urges, motivate them for change, so they can live a life like a balanced lifestyle. So, beautiful. And so there's many tools that I even use a tool for not even just for addictive behaviors. I'm using it for a daily basis. So it's tools are amazing. So that's, for me personally, it's just like using a hammer. We all have a tool chest. So we have to pull out a hammer for this nail, a screwdriver to turn this. It's the same thing with Smart Recovery. They pull out a tool for whatever emotional issue that's going on in their life or whatever situation in their life. The same way.
So true, so true. And you're lucky because certainly in Canada, in the United States, smart recovery is a thing. Here in New Zealand, unfortunately, we don't have it as such. Although similar things are done in private rehabs. I'm aware of one. When I actually looked at what they are doing, then that's actually very similar to smart recovery. So just different focus. Having said that, no doubt, one recovery program or the other, it doesn't matter. There is a past. There are negative feelings, and there are things from the past that you need to deal with. There are some abscesses where you need a knife to drain the pus. And if you just think of the future and think positive and law of attraction kind of thing, that's all quite good. But learning the tools doesn't mean to say that you're all positive and lovely bubbly. But yeah, there are the dark moments in our lives that we need to deal with and either come to terms with them and put them to bed because they have happened and there's nothing we can do about it. But now by living a different life, we can make amends, so to speak. We can change lives from now on forward. Or indeed, we can do something about the past and heal this way. So I assume that whilst you're focusing on the future, that does not mean to say that the past will not get a say.
Yep, absolutely. And what we tell people, and that's one of our tools is not dwelling on the past. But we tell people we're not therapists as facilitators. We're not professionals. We're just here to teach you the tools. If you have some past pain or issue in your own life, go to a counselor, go to a psychotherapist, seek out the professional help because they have the tools to draw out that to help you heal yourself. So, and we have some tools that will find some of the little pinpoint issues that are causing some of those events in your life, causing emotional feelings, that you can find the past memory, but it's not to heal that past memory because that takes time. That takes a real professional to work on those.
And it needs to be done. It is, I mean, that is part of step 4 in an AA program, where you do this inventory, where you do look closely at your resentments, your fears, your anger. Where's that coming from? And you write things down, and yes, Joe did that to me, and that's how it made me feel. And okay. And then after a little while, your mentor or your counselor or whoever is assisting you will come back to that list of things that you've written down. You might say, you remember when you were so upset about what Joe did to you? Yeah. Can you remember, did you actually do something? What was your role in that? Suddenly you might think, yeah, about that. So it always takes two to tango, and that is sort of important self-development work. And if you don't do that, there's no way that you can love yourself because you're stuck in that resentment and that and sometimes anger is really, really helpful and can be good, and sometimes it's so self-destructive. Trust me, I'm a bloody hothead. So I know exactly what anger is, and it ate me up on the inside. And that was one of the driving things for me to drink, because then after 2, 3, 4 glasses of wine, that anger disappeared. And suddenly there was the relaxation there, and I thought, fine. And suddenly I could think of happy things, which, yeah. So it is what it is.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So for example, yours was doing the 12 step, and I didn't even know I was using the tools when I was recovering. And so the one main tool, if you don't mind, can I share one of the tools that we use?
Absolutely, please.
So I call it the ABCs of rational emotive behavior therapy. So A stands for the activating event. The B is the belief surrounding the event. And then C is the emotional feeling we get from the event. Then what we do is we take the D, we dispute it. So we ask ourselves, is it rational or irrational?
Mm-hmm.
What we are thinking about the event and how our belief system. Then we effectively change. Means now we're going to look and digest and see, what is the emotional feeling? Is it real? Is it true? Is that event, did that person hurt me? Or was it my belief surrounding the event? So then we effectively change it. That person may have just been upset that day, or they just didn't see me when they were cutting me off on the road, driving down the road. They were just la, 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 la. And so we effectively change that belief we have surrounding the event. So there's different ways of really rolling that out. And that was the simplest way that I use. I use this on a daily basis. Stefan, I use this. And I could share so many times that I've been using this now. It's just like all of a sudden it's just I roll it through. So once people really start to understand this tool, they can really change their state of mind and their emotional feelings.
And isn't it amazing that it is like a muscle memory? So the more you do the workout, the more your body realizes exactly what it is doing. That is why soldiers practice the drawing of the pistol, or the putting the rifle exactly in the right place again and again and again until it's all pure muscle memory. Guess what? You can do exactly the same with coping mechanisms and with tools, as you call them, and suddenly it becomes so quick. It becomes lightning fast. Happened to me this morning. I drove to work, and for one reason or the other, I was 10 minutes later than usual, maybe 12 minutes later. So suddenly, instead of all the guys who have the same mindset as me, go fast, smooth, know the corners, know everything, we get to work in no time. I now was suddenly with the elderlies that going leisurely to shopping, or the mums that haven't slept for 2 years with their toddlers, and they're now in front of me. It was mayhem. It was hell. But because there must have been nearly 5 accidents, which other people did stupid things, and that is in a 7 or 10-minute drive. You think, come on. I was fuming, but I found myself fuming. I looked at myself and I thought, wow, is that really the way you want to be? Actually, for the moment, I decided yes, and I did a mighty loud scream and said, okay, got that out of the system now. And now let's think. And then I use coping mechanisms in a similar way as your mnemonic there. And it was good. By the time I reached work, 2 minutes later, my anger was gone, completely gone. Stepped out of the car and I looked at the clouds and the sunshine, and I thought, wow, that's a good day. So 2 minutes from angry, I could rip someone's head off, to nice and serene, truly calm, not just somehow pretending to be. So that is practice. That is the mindfulness, the stepping out of your head. And if you go to meetings such as yours, that is where you can practice that. Because the way I understand smart meetings, it's exactly that's what you do. You take examples. I mean, why don't you talk us through a meeting, how it would be if someone now finally admits, shit, I need help, and sort of or someone drags him along to your meeting. What would happen?
So how the meeting structure starts is, for example, I would do an opening statement on how smart recovery is and other rules and basis. Then we would do an opening statement. So everybody would go around the room and share their name and what brought them to smart recovery. And then how was their last 7 days? So what emotional upsets did you have? Any triggers? Did you have a relapse or a slip going on? And then what we would do once we got around the room, then we would do called a crosstalk. And so I would, for example, the facilitator would pinpoint somebody has something going on. So then I would go back to that person and then we would talk more about that. And then I would do some motivational interviewing. I would ask them, so what was the event? What was the emotional feeling you felt? What was the reason you went down to the liquor store? Then I would ask the whole group, because this is a group sharing exercise, as we call crosstalk. And then I would ask everybody, what are you using? What tool are you using to really help that individual through his process? And it works as I step away. And if I need to step in and do a tool, and I would do a tool as the meeting progressed and as we were talking, instead of just teaching. So then it would all work as like a magical wheel, like a machine, like an engine, just all of a sudden, and everybody would share, or a few people would share. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then when we do that, we've done a couple people with a crosstalk, because it's an hour and a half event or a meeting. Then I would do an actual full education on one of the tools. So I would pull out the handbook, or now everything's online, so not everybody has a handbook. And then I would actually go to the website, or I'd have all the information on my computer, and then I would pull a tool up. Then I would do a tool. And then once I've done the tool, then I would ask questions. So what moment in your life that you can use those tools? What would be the best situation you can use those tools? If you had a trigger, if you had an emotional upset, and then what we'd do, once we've gone through the tool, then we would do a closing. And then I would ask everybody, how was the meeting, and what are you going to do for your sobriety in the next 7 days?
Good. Brilliant.
And then I would do some gratitude, and then we would close the meeting. Yeah. That would be it.
Beautiful. Well, and what were the key words there? So it's all about sharing, communication, a big thing, about giving hope and showing how they can achieve a new level of awareness, or learn how to use a new tool, or use a tool that they know, maybe in a different setting. So it's all about adapting those tools to different life circumstances that mean something to you. Because sometimes it's hard. We are all living different lives. We all come from different backgrounds. And whilst the stresses might be very different in different lives, it's amazing how a small repertoire of really good, handy tools can make so much difference. I find that a beautiful, beautiful thing nowadays. Do we get it right, guys, all the time? No. No. And sometimes you just have to say, okay, today was not a good day. End of the story. and sometimes it's okay to just want to lie down and feel like crying. And that's absolutely good, because not every day can be superb and fantastic. No, it is not. But but the more you learn tools, the more you immerse yourself in that, the more the savvier you get. And whilst you might not click in a particular situation to a certain tool, you might remember something from step so-and-so from that program. Or you might have heard a story somewhere on Instagram or in a Facebook group that you have joined about something else, where someone else dealt with a scenario that is now similar to yours. So it's so important to actually be open to the possibility that there are actually many ways how to skin a cat, and that life will have challenges left, right, and center waiting for you. Okay, and there's the little alcohol and the drugs saying, "Oh, look, such a bad day. Come on, you've deserved that drink." So what do you do? You do. And sorry, how many times do you get? Do you still have cravings? Do you still have good waves? No.
Like my wife still drinks, so she drinks once in a while, but not like once in a month, maybe sometimes. Yeah. So there is still beer in the fridge sometimes, or there's. I look at it, and then split second, but nothing. No strong urge. My habitual habit. It's pretty much. I would say 99.9% gone, because 100% still is it's still there, because it's that lizard brain or whatever it may be. It's still a trigger, but it doesn't last very long. A very short amount of time.
Indeed.
And like you said, not every life is positive bed of roses. That's literally impossible BS, just not real. And we have ups and downs. We have the roller coaster. It just happens to be that way. So, but being mindful that we do have that situation in our lives, that we can change it.
Isn't it?
Have the tools. Yeah.
And if you have the tools and you have learned how to press the stop button for a moment, the pause button, and actually just step back from the situation, you might find ways how to extricate yourself out of a scenario that otherwise would have spiraled out of control. And due to, just sometimes very quickly the spiral goes nuts. And by you learning how to press that pause button, I mean, I always say that example now with my wife. It's very, very hard for my wife and me to fight nowadays, because we have learned to press the pause button. We have learned to ask, whoa, where's that coming from? Are you okay? Shall we, what shall I do? How can I help you? Kind of a thing. And she might just say, oh, leave me alone, for crying out loud. And which means she actually needs solitude and literally needs to be left alone. That doesn't mean now that I'm hurt or so. I just say, sure. I'll bugger off for 5 minutes. And then she might come down and say, look, I'm really sorry. I today feel really ratty. I have no idea why, but it is what it is. Then we give each other a hug, and that was it.
That's it.
Well, it's 10 years ago. Arr, how dare you speak to me like that? I demand respect. I bring the money in. Oh, God. But that is life. So guys, just, if you have a chance to actually go to a meeting to Smart Recovery, why not check it out? Doesn't matter that in the past you've been to 12 steps or something else. If you have got the opportunity, go for it. And nowadays, I mean, many of the meetings are on Zoom, and Smart Recovery is pretty much the same, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. And Smart Recovery is in Australia. It's really dived right into Australia, England. It's now in Pakistan. It's international. It's
beautiful.
It's big in England. So it's starting to mass produce all around the world. The books have been translated into, I think, 12 or 13 different languages.
Nice.
And so it's really starting to grow. And it's very funny you say that about having those arguments with your wife. And I'm going to share is, no matter what, always ask your wife, tell me more about your feelings. Or say, is there anything that I can share about what I'm feeling? I'm telling you, everyone, is really get over the fear of sharing the truth about your feelings, because I'm telling you, it'll transform your life.
Absolutely. Isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And sometimes to just actually, instead of being angry, say, look, what you have just said, that is how it made me feel because of X, Y, and Z. And the amount of times she turned around and said, what? I never intended that. That's not what I said. I said, well, that's how I understood it. Oh, no. And, in the past, it would have been Third World War. But now that we actually said, oh, it was a simple misunderstanding. And it's such a simple thing to do. But you need to show that the mixture of balls, backbone, and humility, actually put them together and actually become like a guy who, a previous guest, Nick Bochner, his title of his appearance on my show was to bring a tissue to a gunfight, to actually share your emotions, to actually be open and say, hey, look, you've just hurt me with what you said, instead of going angry and shooting and it's great. It's so I think, guys, and girls, please, this is not a guy only kind of thing here, okay? Let's get quite clear. And if you're non-binary, even better, okay? This is for all of us. So we are human beings, and we have got some really screwed up pathways up there. And unless you do the work, and unless you actually listen to someone like Stefan or the other Stefan, then you struggle.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
that's brilliant. Stefan, tell us more.
Yeah.
How can we find you? How can people learn more about smart recovery and about your great things that you're doing out there?
Sure. So with Smart Recovery, there's meeting locators. So you can find a meeting online, for example. So you would go to smartrecovery.org and pull up the website. It's all front page. So very, very simple. And they also have, and I'd love to share this, they also have a online that's actually you would log in. So you log, it's a private account you create, and it's a very safe online platform as well. This is as well as public ones. So my meetings, you would go to smartrecovery.org, go to the search find meetings, and type in the location. For example, mine is White Rock, British Columbia, Canada. And then you can find my meetings. I have 3 meetings a week that I do. I do a Monday, I do a Wednesday, and I do a Saturday morning event. So, and I put these on, and there's meetings all around. There's nearly 500 meetings online in North America for Smart Recovery. And that's not including all of Australia and UK and other parts of the world. So, but yeah, you can find me. I have my own Facebook page about Smart Recovery. It's Smart Recovery online meetings, British Columbia, Canada. You can find it there. You can search my name. My book is called From Zero to Hero: Why the World Picked Me. So that's where you can find my book. So that's me in a nutshell.
Brilliant. And you guys, just have a look down there in the description of the video and in the description of the podcast, because I've got to put the links in there for your convenience. And why not check it out? What stops you? What could possibly be negative about you learning some new skill that might change your world forever? Think long and hard about that, okay?
Absolutely.
Stefan, I'm so grateful that you could spend this whole hour with me. I'm so grateful for you opening up and sharing your past, but also sharing all this passion and all the skills that you're learning, and to see the other Stefan Neff there being a facilitator in smart recovery is just, it still makes me chuckle here. That's brilliant. Stefan, thank you so much. It was an absolute honor to have you on my show.
Thank you, Stefan. You know what? I'm super grateful for you for reaching out to me. It's like I'm speaking to a brother, and it's so amazing. So thank you so much. Exactly. I had a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
You guys out there, look after yourself. I wish you a fantastic weekend. It's Friday when we're recording that here. So look after yourself and make the most out of every second. It's your life. You determine the ending. You can't do anything about how Once Upon a Time started, but you have the power to change the ending. So write it yourself. Don't let someone else interfere. Look after yourself, guys. Bye. Dream on, dream.